Imagine being homeless in the freezing woods, only to feel solid iron beneath your boots. Not a rock, not frozen soil, a door. This isn't a movie. It's the night a discarded 19-year-old found an underground sanctuary buried in the Montana mountains, a vault sealed for decades, waiting, and the system that forgot him had no idea what it left behind. He was 19 years old and officially worth nothing. The state called it aging out. It sounded gentle, administrative, harmless. What it meant was this: one trash bag of clothes, a worn rucksack, no apartment, no cosigner, no family, and a bus ticket that dropped him 2 towns away from the last foster house that said he was too difficult. His name was Caleb Turner, and by sundown, the Montana wind was already cutting through the seams of his coat. Montana in late November doesn't forgive. The trees stand like silent witnesses. The snow crusts sharp as broken glass. The air tastes metallic. Every breath feels borrowed. Caleb moved without a map, not because he wanted adventure, but because shelters were full, and the last couch he'd asked for came with conditions he refused to accept. He walked north, toward state land, toward trees thick enough to block the wind, toward invisibility. The sun dropped fast, the temperature followed. He counted supplies like someone counting heartbeats. 2 protein bars, half a bottle of water, a cheap lighter, a thin emergency blanket. He had learned something in 12 foster homes. Never show fear, never expect rescue, and always look for the thing other people miss. That's when he saw it, a faint disturbance in the snow. Not animal tracks, too straight, too deliberate. He brushed away frozen brush with his boot. Metal clanged softly beneath. He froze. Metal doesn't grow in the wilderness. He knelt, dug with numb fingers. Snow packed into his sleeves. Ice scraped his knuckles raw. A rusted pipe emerged, about 4 inches wide, bent at the top like a periscope. Ventilation. He followed its base, cleared more brush, and there it was, an outline in the earth, rectangular, reinforced edges, a hatch. His breath fogged hard in the fading light. He stood still, listening. Nothing, just wind across pine needles. He pressed his ear to the surface. Silence. But silence underground doesn't mean empty. It means sealed. He almost walked away, almost told himself it was a septic tank or some forgotten well. But then the wind shifted, and the temperature near the metal felt different, less sharp, like something below was holding the cold back. Caleb swallowed. If this was nothing, he wasted energy. If this was something, it could mean heat, or at least shelter from the wind. He wrapped his fingers around the steel ring handle. It didn't move, frozen shut. He exhaled slowly, pulled the lighter from his pocket, heated the hinge seam carefully, melted just enough ice to weaken the seal. He tugged again. It groaned, loud, too loud. He froze again. The forest remained indifferent. He pulled harder. The hatch lifted an inch, then 2, then it swung back with a metallic echo that seemed to fall forever. Beneath it, darkness, and a steel ladder descending into it. Caleb stared into the black. Cold wind rushed down, then slowed. He dropped a small rock inside. It clinked against metal steps. Not dirt, metal. This wasn't a septic tank. This was engineered. He hesitated only a second. Then he climbed down and closed the hatch above him. Darkness swallowed him. Absolute, heavy. His boots echoed against steel rungs, hollow, industrial. 10 feet down, 15, 20. His lighter flickered, weak flame dancing. Then his foot hit concrete. He turned slowly. Walls curved around him, reinforced, thick. A circular chamber, about 8 feet wide. A second door stood ahead, massive, wheel-lock mechanism, military gray paint peeling at the edges. Caleb's pulse thundered. He'd seen movies, but movies didn't smell like this. The air inside wasn't rotten, it wasn't damp. It smelled filtered, old metal, oil, dust untouched by weather. He placed his palm on the inner door, cold but not frozen. He turned the wheel. It resisted, then moved with grinding reluctance. The seal broke with a deep, pressurized sigh. The door creaked open, and his lighter flame flickered against something impossible. Rows, metal shelves stretching into shadow. He stepped inside. His boot hit a switch plate near the wall. Lights flickered, once, twice, then hummed to life in a dim yellow glow. Caleb shielded his eyes. The room wasn't small, it was enormous. Concrete walls reinforced with steel beams, vent ducts overhead, crates stacked in military precision. A bunker, Cold War era, undisturbed, waiting. He walked forward slowly. His breath echoed. Dust particles floated like suspended time. A calendar hung on one wall, 1987. It was November, same month, 39 years ago. This was no survival shed. This was a decommissioned government vault, forgotten or buried intentionally. Caleb's heart pounded not with fear, but disbelief. For the first time in his life, he wasn't unwanted. He was early. He opened the nearest crate. Vacuum-sealed rations, military grade, dates printed decades old but preserved airtight. He tore one open cautiously. The contents smelled intact, freeze-dried. He didn't care about flavor. He cared about calories. He ate slowly, tears forming without permission. Hot food wasn't what broke him. Security did. He moved deeper. Medical supply lockers, gauze, antibiotics sealed in packs, suture kits. Tool chests lined one wall, wrenches, soldering irons, battery testers, manuals. He found a generator room, backup batteries, fuel drums sealed tight, a water filtration system connected to underground reserves. This wasn't a temporary shelter. It was designed for long-term occupation. He found bunk beds in a dormitory section, blankets still wrapped in plastic, a small kitchen area, a communications desk, dusty, dead. Caleb leaned against the wall and slid to the floor. The contrast hit him like impact. 3 nights ago, he slept in a bus station bathroom. Now he was standing inside a self-contained fortress. He laughed once, short, disbelieving. The world had shut its door on him, but another door, buried under snow, had opened. And here's the part most people don't understand. Sometimes the people who survive aren't the strongest. They're the ones who refuse to stop looking. If you've ever felt thrown away, if you've ever had to build your own safety net, you already understand Caleb. And if you're still here listening, it's because something in this story feels familiar. Hold on to that, because what he does next changes everything. Survival wasn't enough. Caleb knew that. Finding the vault was luck. Keeping it would take intelligence. He spent days mapping the interior. 3 main chambers, 2 emergency exits sealed from inside, 1 ventilation shaft. He inventoried supplies carefully. Enough rations to last years if rationed correctly. Medical supplies that could outlast minor disasters. tools capable of repairing nearly everything inside. He tested the generator. It sputtered, coughed, then roared to life. Lights brightened. Heat systems kicked on slowly. Warm air flowed through vents. He stood in the center of the bunker and closed his eyes. Warmth. Not borrowed, not conditional. His. But reality intruded. This wasn't legally his property. It was federal land, decommissioned military infrastructure. If discovered, he could be charged with trespassing, squatting, theft. The system that aged him out could suddenly remember he existed. He weighed the risk. Outside meant freezing, exposure, vulnerability. Inside meant secrecy, planning, opportunity. He chose inside, not recklessly, strategically. He camouflaged the hatch above with brush and snow, cleared no obvious paths leading to it, used power sparingly to avoid unusual heat signatures. He read manuals about the bunker's original purpose: fallout shelter, Cold War contingency site, designed to protect government personnel in case of nuclear exchange. Fear built it, but neglect abandoned it. Caleb repaired small things first, rewired loose panels, cleaned filters, tested water systems. Every fix built confidence. Every repair stitched something back inside him. Because for the first time, he wasn't surviving someone else's rules. He was maintaining his own foundation. Weeks passed. Then something unexpected happened. He found a locked cabinet in the communications room. Not labeled. Different key system. He worked at it patiently using tools from the workshop. It clicked open. Inside were documents, maps, and something more valuable than rations: land transfer records. The bunker had been built under a classified program, later privatized quietly when funding collapsed. Ownership had been transferred to a shell corporation in 1992. That corporation dissolved in 2001. No active claimant, no tax filings, no renewal. On paper, it didn't exist anymore. Caleb stared at the documents. A loophole. Not immediate ownership, but a path. He researched using an old portable radio scanner and eventually a salvaged laptop powered through the generator. Public land records, abandonment statutes, adverse possession laws. Montana had provisions: occupy, improve, maintain, for a statutory period. It wasn't fast, but it was possible. The boy who aged out with nothing began planning like a landowner. 3 months in, he wasn't alone. One night, while inspecting the hatch, he noticed footprints. Not his. Fresh. Heart racing, he retreated inside quietly. Someone had followed a faint disturbance in the snow, the same way he had. He waited in darkness. Hours passed. Then the hatch creaked open. A flashlight beam cut through the chamber. A voice whispered. Female. Young. "Please, I just need somewhere warm." Caleb's stomach dropped. She was about 17, thin, exhausted, foster system bracelet still on her wrist. She had tracked the ventilation warmth like he once did. The twist wasn't an enemy. It was a mirror. He could shut the door, protect his claim, or he could break the cycle. He stepped forward into the light. She flinched. He raised his hands slowly. "It's warm down here," he said quietly, "and there's enough." And in that moment, ownership meant something different, not possession, responsibility. The vault changed function, from bunker to sanctuary. He taught her the systems, shared rations carefully, made rules. No outside trails, no unnecessary power usage. He didn't become a savior, he became proof that abandonment doesn't define outcome. Over time, he initiated the legal process quietly, consulted a pro bono attorney in town under an alias, filed occupancy improvements documentation. It would take years, but for the first time, time was on his side. The bunker became more than shelter. It became an address, an identity, a base. He planted a discreet greenhouse system near the ventilation output, sustainable food, installed security sensors using spare wiring, not to hide from the world, but to ensure the world couldn't erase him again. The foster youth discarded at 19 was now the caretaker of a fortress built by a government that feared collapse. And here's the irony. The system that prepared for nuclear war accidentally prepared a future for the boy it forgot. If you've ever felt like life buried you under snow, if you've ever believed you were invisible, remember this. Sometimes the door isn't locked, it's just hidden. And sometimes the future waiting beneath your feet was built by someone else's fear, but claimed by your courage. Caleb didn't become rich overnight. He didn't become famous. He became stable, independent, free. And in a world that ages kids out with trash bags and bus tickets, that's revolutionary. So if this story stirred something in you, if you believe no one should be discarded at 18, stay with this channel, because we tell stories about the forgotten who fight back and sometimes win. The mountains capped their silence, the hatch stayed hidden, but beneath frozen Montana soil, a light stayed on, and for the first time in his life, Caleb wasn't waiting to be chosen. He had already chosen himself.